The invitation to my father's tech startup launch arrived with a handwritten note that somehow managed to be both inclusive and insulting. "Sarah, we'd love for you to attend Dad's big day, but please dress appropriately and try not to draw attention to yourself. This is a serious business event. Love, Mom." I stared at the cream-colored cardstock announcing the launch of Peterson Innovations, my father's attempt to break into the artificial intelligence market after 30 years as a mid-level software engineer. The venue was impressive. The penthouse of the Meridian Tower with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Seattle and enough space for the 200 investors they'd somehow convinced to attend. What my family didn't know was that I'd been watching their startup for months, not out of family loyalty, but because Peterson Innovations was attempting to enter a market segment I'd been dominating for 3 years. The morning of the launch, I stood in my walk-in closet selecting an outfit that would satisfy my mother's definition of appropriate, while concealing the reality of who I'd become since graduating MIT 7 years ago. Simple black dress, minimal jewelry, nothing that would suggest I was anything more than the wayward daughter who'd disappointed everyone by choosing startups over the traditional corporate career path they'd envisioned. I arrived at the Meridian Tower 30 minutes early, taking the express elevator to the penthouse where catering staff was making final preparations. The space was elegant, high-tech displays showcasing Peterson Innovations' AI platform, stations demonstrating their software capabilities, and a stage where my father would soon present his vision for disrupting the machine learning industry. "Sarah." My brother Derek appeared at my side, wearing a custom suit that screamed, "Executive Vice President." He'd joined Dad's startup 6 months ago, leaving his job at Microsoft to help launch what they both believed would be their ticket to Silicon Valley success. "You look nice," he said in the tone one might use to compliment a child's finger painting. "Just remember, this is Dad's day. Try to blend in with the crowd, okay? Don't mention your little app thing if anyone asks what you do." My little app thing. That's how my family had been referring to my work for the past 5 years. Ever since I'd left my first job out of MIT to pursue what they considered a frivolous career in mobile development. They'd watched my lifestyle improve, the downtown loft, the luxury car, the frequent business travel, but attributed it all to lucky investments rather than professional success. "I'll do my best to stay invisible," I promised. "Good. Dad's really nervous and Mom's been worried all week that you might say something embarrassing to the investors." Derek adjusted his tie, scanning the arriving guests. "These are serious people, Sarah. Venture capital partners, angel investors, tech executives. They're here to evaluate a real business opportunity, not listen to stories about mobile apps." Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the NASDAQ building's electronic billboards cycling through stock prices and company announcements. In exactly 47 minutes, if everything went according to schedule, that screen would display news that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of today's event. "Who's the lead investor?" I asked casually. "Morrison Ventures is considering a $12 million Series A round," Derek said proudly. "Dad's been working on this presentation for months. The AI platform could revolutionize how small businesses handle customer service automation." I nodded thoughtfully. Morrison Ventures was indeed a significant player, though they'd turned down 3 opportunities to invest in my company over the past 2 years. Something about market saturation and uncertain scalability in the AI customer service space. "Sounds promising," I said. "It really is. Though honestly, Sarah, I'm surprised you're here. I know tech stuff isn't really your thing." If only he knew that I'd been reading their pitch deck for weeks, having received it through the industry network that kept me informed about potential competitors and market disruptions. Peterson Innovations was entering a space where I'd already achieved the kind of success they were hoping to build over the next 5 years. As investors began arriving, men and women in expensive suits carrying iPads and business cards, I recognized several faces from conferences where I'd been the keynote speaker. None of them acknowledged me, of course. Out of context, wearing a simple black dress instead of my usual executive attire, I was just another attendee at someone else's launch event. My phone vibrated with a text from my board chair. "Announcement goes live in 45 minutes. You ready for this?" I typed back, "More than ready. About to become very interesting." Derek was still talking about investor expectations and market opportunities, oblivious to the fact that his sister was about to demonstrate exactly how competitive the AI customer service market had become. By 6 p.m., the penthouse was packed with Seattle's tech investment community. I recognized partners from Kleiner Perkins, representatives from Andreessen Horowitz, and several executives from Amazon and Microsoft who'd made the transition to angel investing. The energy was electric. The kind of atmosphere where million-dollar deals materialized over handshakes and elevator pitches. I positioned myself near the back of the room, following Derek's instructions to remain invisible while my father made final preparations for his presentation. From my vantage point, I could see the entire scene. Investors sampling premium catered appetizers while examining product demonstrations, my mother working the room in her role as startup wife, and Derek networking with the enthusiasm of someone who believed he was on the verge of changing his life. Ladies and gentlemen, my father's voice echoed through the sound system. Welcome to the future of artificial intelligence in customer service. The room quieted as David Peterson, age 54, took the stage to present Peterson Innovations' revolutionary platform. He was nervous but polished, having practiced this presentation countless times over the past 6 months. Traditional customer service is broken, he began, clicking to his first slide. Small businesses lose millions of dollars annually due to inefficient support systems, delayed response times, and frustrated customers who take their business elsewhere. I had to admire his delivery. The presentation was professional, the market analysis was accurate, and the problem statement was compelling. Unfortunately for Peterson Innovations, the solution they were proposing had been obsolete for 2 years. Our AI platform, Petra, Peterson Enterprise Technology Response Assistant, can handle 90% of customer inquiries without human intervention, reducing response times from hours to seconds and cutting support costs by up to 70%. Polite applause rippled through the crowd. Several investors were taking notes, though I noticed the Morrison Ventures partners exchanging skeptical glances. They'd seen this presentation before, not from my father but from the dozen other startups attempting to solve the same problems with variations of the same approach. My phone buzzed, T-15 minutes. Final confirmation. I typed back, confirmed. Go live at 6:30. Derek appeared beside me, grinning with excitement. He's killing it up there, isn't he? Morrison's senior partner asked me about our customer acquisition strategy. I think we're going to get the funding. The presentation is very polished, I agreed. Dad's been working 18-hour days for months. This is his chance to prove that age doesn't matter in tech, that experience and determination can compete with venture-backed startups run by 25-year-olds. The irony was crushing. My father was indeed competing with venture-backed startups run by young entrepreneurs, including one run by his own daughter, who'd been building the company he was trying to create while he was still planning his business model. Sarah, can I ask you something? Derek's voice dropped to a whisper. Are you okay with all this? I know you've always been the tech person in the family, and here's Dad launching a tech company without asking for your input. I smiled. I'm proud of him for pursuing his vision. Good, because honestly we were worried you might feel left out. But your app work is so different from enterprise AI that it didn't really make sense to involve you in the planning. On stage, my father was demonstrating Petra's capabilities using a simulated customer service scenario. The technology worked as advertised. It was competent, functional, and roughly equivalent to platforms that had been available for 3 years. The total addressable market for AI customer service solutions is projected to reach $15 billion by 2025, he continued. Peterson Innovations is positioned to capture significant market share through our focus on small and medium-sized businesses that have been underserved by existing platforms. At 6:28, I excused myself and walked to the window overlooking downtown Seattle. The NASDAQ building's electronic billboard was cycling through its usual rotation of financial news and market updates. At 6:30 exactly my phone rang. Sarah. My board chair's voice was crisp with excitement. We're live. NASDAQ announcement just went out and the wire services are picking it up. I looked up at the electronic billboard, where my company's logo had just appeared alongside the headline. SVA completes $847 million acquisition by Google. Largest AI customer service acquisition in history. The room behind me had gone very quiet. I turned to see 200 investors staring at their phones, reading the breaking news that had just fundamentally altered the landscape my father was attempting to enter. Derek was staring at me with an expression of complete confusion. Sarah, there's a company called Cynthia AI that just got acquired by Google. The CEO's name is Sarah Peterson. I nodded calmly. That would be me. The silence that followed was absolute. You. Derek's voice cracked as the implications began to sink in. You're the CEO of Cynthia AI? The entire room had shifted focus from my father's presentation to the breaking news flooding their devices. Morrison Ventures' senior partner was staring at his phone with an expression of disbelief, while other investors whispered urgently to their colleagues. I walked calmly to the front of the room, where my father stood frozen at the podium, his presentation remote hanging limply from his hand. Dad, I'm sorry to interrupt, I said gently, but I think there's been a misunderstanding about the AI customer service market. Sarah, what is this? My mother's voice was shrill with panic. What do these people mean when they say you're a CEO? I mean that I've been running Cynthia AI for 5 years, I explained, facing the room of investors who were now studying me with intense interest. We launched in 2019 with the same vision Dad just presented, revolutionizing customer service through artificial intelligence. The Morrison Ventures senior partner, James Morrison, stepped forward. Ms. Peterson, we reviewed Cynthia AI for investment 18 months ago. Your platform was processing over 50 million customer interactions monthly. 62 million as of last quarter, I confirmed. We've been the market leader in AI customer service automation since 2021. Derek's face had gone white. But you said you worked on mobile apps. I said I worked in mobile development. Cynthia AI started as a mobile-first platform before expanding to enterprise solutions. I looked around the room at investors who'd just witnessed the collapse of Peterson Innovations' entire market thesis. Dad's presentation is very good, but unfortunately, the problem he's solving was addressed 3 years ago. My father finally found his voice. Sarah, I don't understand. You never said anything about running a company. You never asked, I replied simply. When I tried to discuss my work, you called it my little app thing and changed the subject. Morrison stepped closer, his expression shifting from shock to professional curiosity. Ms. Peterson, the acquisition announcement mentions that Google paid $847 million for Cynthia AI. Is that accurate? The final terms included earn-out provisions that could reach $1.2 billion over 3 years, I confirmed. The sound that escaped my mother's throat was somewhere between a gasp and a sob. Billion? With a B. Sarah, Morrison continued, we've been looking for the right opportunity to expand our AI portfolio. Would you be interested in discussing your next venture? Before I could respond, Derek grabbed my arm. Wait. You're telling me that while Dad was developing his startup, you were running a billion-dollar company in the same market? I was running the company that just made Dad's startup obsolete, I clarified. The room erupted in conversations as investors realized they were in the presence of someone whose success dwarfed anything Peterson Innovations could offer. Several venture partners approached me directly, abandoning my father's presentation entirely. My father stood on the stage, watching his carefully planned launch dissolve into a networking session centered around his daughter, the daughter he'd asked to stay in the back and avoid drawing attention to herself. Mr. Peterson, Morrison said diplomatically, perhaps we should reschedule our funding discussion. The market dynamics have changed significantly. My father nodded numbly, finally understanding that his 18 months of preparation had just been rendered meaningless by 5 minutes of reality. The invisibility I'd been asked to maintain had just become the most visible moment of his entrepreneurial career. The Peterson Innovations launch party transformed into an impromptu celebration of my acquisition, with investors eager to discuss my next venture and learn details about Cynthia AI's technology platform. My father stood quietly by the window, watching his dreams of tech entrepreneurship crumble in real time. Sarah, we need to talk, my mother said, pulling me aside. Why didn't you tell us you were successful? I tried to, Mom. But every time I mentioned my work, you called it cute or ambitious, and asked when I was going to get a real job. We thought you were struggling. You never showed off or bragged about achievements. Because success doesn't require announcement, I replied. I was building something meaningful while you assumed I was failing. Derek approached hesitantly. The Morrison partners want to know if I can arrange an introduction to your engineering team. Apparently, my sister is kind of a big deal in AI. Kind of, I agreed with a smile. 2 weeks later, my father quietly closed Peterson Innovations and returned to his software engineering job, humbled but strangely relieved. Derek joined my new venture as Chief Operations Officer, bringing valuable experience and a newfound respect for his sister's capabilities. My mother framed the newspaper article about my acquisition and placed it prominently in their living room, finally having something to brag about at social gatherings. The family learned that success comes in many forms, and that sometimes the most impressive achievements are accomplished by the people you underestimate most. Sometimes being asked to stay invisible is the perfect setup for an unforgettable revelation.